Hey Bratayley fans, I guess you've heard, we're making history. And we're starting at the very beginning. Of our nation, that is.
Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony that he found. Stuck a feather in his hat, called it macaroni, then he kept on riding on his pony.
We're off on a trip back in time to the American Revolution, in costume and undercover. We're in hot pursuit of characters like General George Washington, lady spies, soldiers, presidents, pirates, horses, and some pretty sweet dance moves. We'll travel the original 13 colonies to see what we can find and recreate some of history's most famous moments. So saddle up. Good morning, everybody. We did it. We went to bed super late and got up super early. The sun is shining in Charleston. Annie wants to go back to bed, but we are all ready. So let's go make some more history.
How about we make history of sleeping in a bed?
That's not exciting.
In that bed, watching that TV. Like that close.
How about you go out that door?
We're in the state of South Carolina. How do you do that?
You don't be able to do it.
South Carolina is a beautiful state and has a lot of Revolutionary War history. It's got palm trees, it's got the ocean.
While Washington and his troops were fighting up in the north, the Patriots in South Carolina, way down here, also had their hands full.
More battles were fought in South Carolina than any other state.
We're here on Sullivan's Island near Charleston, South Carolina. Just down the road is a place called Fort Moultrie.
One of the first battles here was fought at Fort Moultrie.
1 month before we declared our independence, the British Navy came right over here to Fort Moultrie and they launched a naval attack against the fort. Here comes the flip.
Woo! We made a sandcastle replica of Fort Moultrie.
This famous fort was supposed to protect the nearby city of Charleston, but it wasn't quite finished when the British first attacked in June 1776.
1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Fort Bratayley. Awesome. In honor of the Battle of Fort Moultrie, we have recreated a perfectly to scale model of the fort.
Now let's chuck balls at it.
We were reenacting that famous battle when King George wanted to scare the Patriots out of Charleston. His Royal Navy fired from their massive boats.
When the British fired, they fired cannonballs.
Aim, 2, 1, fire!
We did the same thing. Sort of.
All right, here comes the big guns.
The Patriots stood their ground, though their army was puny by comparison.
We threw the balls on the fort just like the British back in the day.
Except our fort was not an exact replica. The real fort was not made of sand. It was made of palmetto trees. They have really soft and bouncy wood, so they say that cannonballs couldn't crack it. Instead, they simply bounced off the sturdy walls, sort of like our beach balls.
And just like those cannonballs, our balls didn't do a whole lot of damage. The fort survived. Hooray!
1, 2, 3, 4.
The colonists here managed to turn back the mighty British Navy. This was amazing, kind of like beating a Yeti by pelting him with tennis balls.
Left, 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 right.
And a proud palmetto tree now waves on the South Carolina's state flag.
After the Battle of Fort Moultrie, the U.S. declared their independence a few days later. Huzzah!
Sadly, just a few years after that, the British were back, and they managed to overwhelm the fort and occupy Charleston, which is where we went next.
We went down to the dark, scary dungeon.
Being a patriot here was very risky then. It could land you in the dungeon at the old exchange building.
The dungeon was so dark and spooky, and it had like no windows.
Patriots were actually held prisoner here.
Spooky, 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 spooky.
There were no windows. And without any windows, there's no way for us to pass a message to the outside world or continue fighting against the British. Food was bad, the water was worse, there were rats, there were mice and other disease-carrying insects. It was just a really disgusting and dirty place.
Some of the prisoners were young girls.
There was a young lady by the name of Catherine Saracen who was 11 years old. Her and her older sister, Sarah, who was about 14, were kept down here for nearly 2 weeks. They're eventually let go. Unfortunately, her older sister, Sarah, went mad.
Yeah, what do you think?
What do you think of the dungeon?
I wouldn't want to be held down there, guys.
Next, we headed out to the country to learn about one of the reasons South Carolina was valuable for the British. It supplied them with a hard-to-get blue dye from a plant called indigo. Indigo is where we get the blue in blue jeans.
That's how they used to color their clothes back in the day. Blue.
We stopped to meet a friend of George Washington's who pioneered growing indigo in America, Eliza Pinckney.
My experiments with indigo in the 1740s led to a new industry for South Carolina, a blue dye made from the leaves of an indigo plant, and it brought great wealth to many Carolina planters.
Eliza started running her dad's plantation when she was just 16 and basically launched the indigo industry before she was 20. It said she learned a lot about how to grow it and make the dye from African slaves who worked on her plantation and had brought the knowledge from their homelands.
It was referred to as blue gold.
So my friend Eliza Pinckney here perfected indigo dyeing, and now we are going to dye our own shirts in honor of her amazing work.
What's that going to be?
It's going to be a work of art, odds.
Got it.
I like to push the limits. I like to experiment with new techniques, and I figured I would use all the resources at my disposal and keep rubber banding this up, and I think something special is going to come out of it.
Do you think the dye's going to be able to get through all that?
I am not certain.
Okay, just checking.
It took a little experimentation to get to the final product for you, right? So even though this may be a failure, it may be leading us somewhere we don't even know about yet. To South Carolina and to indigo.
Slow. In. I call B next.
Cool.
All right, you pass the tongs.
Yeah, that's mine.
All right.
Look at it, turning blue.
I know, that's so cool.
Wow, blue.
Look, Annie, this is so neat.
I made a blue crab, look.
Oh, my fingers are numb. Can't even feel this.
This is called the ball technique.
Here we go.
Oh my gosh. Whoa! Whoa!
Cool.
Whoa, Daddy, that's so neat. That's so cool.
I think we're gonna have something real special here. It's gonna be a while.
Whoa!
Wow, cool.
Look at that, it's a spiral. I figured out that me and Annie did the same design.
Yeah. H money. Oh, I tied this in knots too. This is aggressive.
There it is.
Wow.
Washington decided to make a tiny, tiny shirt, Hayley's size. He opened it.
It's not going to be a slam dunk every time.
And there were just like these blue circles, 2 tiny blue circles, and the rest was white.
Now this is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure we have a winner.
It's pretty amazing. It was weird. Eliza Pinckney was an innovator.
We've arrived at the plantation here in Charleston. Our next stop was at Boone Plantation, one of the many huge farms that ended up making a lot of money raising indigo from the seeds that Eliza had given to them.
It is beautiful.
Look at the trees. Those trees have been lining the roads like this for a long time. Can you believe that one person would have owned all this?
All of it?
This would have been their house and their property, yeah.
But behind the beautiful house, we saw the small homes of the slaves whose unpaid labor created this wealth. Even the children had to work.
If you were a child slave on the plantation, initially what you did was work out here with the people you lived with, doing domestic chores and things like that. But there came a time when your master would say it's time for you to work for the plantation. Well, you did that, regardless of how old you were and what that job was.
So these slaves' houses, when they were built, the kids that built the houses left fingerprints on the bricks.
I would have put your fingers in these 3 little spots right there. Can you reach that high? Yeah. So somebody about your size was making that brick before 1790, over 225 years ago.
Wow, see how little the hands are on it?
It's just your height.
Yeah.
As we looked around the cabins, we found handprints everywhere we looked.
But it looks like this is a thumb and some fingers.
Back when these bricks were made, about half of the people in the South were slaves. Some taken by force from faraway Africa, and some born on these plantations who lived and died without knowing what it meant to be free.
Hayley, these are your size, because they don't fit my fingers. Hayley, look, go put your fingers in that one. It looks like your size. This one looks like adult size, and this one's about my size. Each one was like a different size, like one small one was my size, one big one was like a grown-up size, and one in the middle was any size.
We touched just a bit of our country's hard history. We met a woman who shared with us the stories and songs of slaves who once lived here.
We were all from all the different tribes, so we ended up putting our languages together. Now, say for instance, you say this, that, there, them, then, those, so proper. In Gullah, we don't say that. When we talk, we say this, that, there, them, then, those. And we had this thing when we was going to work and we come home, man, they had me working all day long from can't see to can't see. Can't see to can't see. Can you say that?
Can't see.
To can't see. Can't see to can't see, meaning we got up in the dark to go to work when we couldn't see, and we didn't get to come home until dark when we still couldn't see. And you know, as slaves, we tried to get off of this shop plantation many a times. So sometimes we had to sing songs. You know the song? Wade in the water. Sometimes we sang that song because we sang it out as a message. It was a secret message. Only the slaves knew about it. So when we sang that song all day long, all morning, afternoon, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, now wade in the water. God's a gonna trouble. God's a gonna trouble, God's a gonna trouble the water. Message. There was gonna be escape that night. And we were gonna get off that plantation by water, by boat, or walking through the river.
She sang songs, some of them that we knew, some of that we didn't.
Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Can you sing that with me? Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. kumbaya, gullah for come by here. Welcome to Boone Hall Plantation.
Back in Charleston, we learned more about how these slaves were bought and sold.
Washington, greetings, sir.
Pleasure.
This was a space that they sold slaves. They sold slaves out in outdoor markets and auction areas for about 190 years. The prices varied by age, it varied by skill level, and it also varied by your health. And how old are you?
7.
You're 7. About 7, you would be about $200.
This was a sad place to visit. Sometimes families got sold to different masters and were separated.
They were the ones that did, all of the work.
Our guide, Istis, is from Charleston. He knows his own ancestors were enslaved here.
Slaves were the ones that built Fort Sullivan, later to be called Fort Moultrie.
Oh yeah, we were just over there.
Yeah, they were the ones that cultivated the rice and the indigo and the cotton. They were sort of the bedrock or the backs of the entirety of the society.
Even while they were fighting for their own freedom from England, a lot of the original founding fathers owned slaves. Others, Ben Franklin, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, thought slavery should be ended. John Lawrence was a Charleston patriot whose own dad was a slave dealer. John argued passionately that the slaves should be given freedom, but he didn't win. As we rode around Charleston that evening, our feelings were mixed. In 1781, the British surrendered and the patriots imprisoned in the dungeons were free men. But the many nameless men, women, and children whose hands shaped the brick that built this city would have to wait another 100 years for their freedom.